There we go.
Have we got
Okay.
everything, everybody, Gary, that we're expecting?
It's all yours, Dana.
Okay, I'll call a meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Mike can't be with us tonight. He ended up having to teach a Zoom class, but he's gonna have his computer on and try to keep one eye on that and keep an eye on us while we're doing this. So we got a lot to get through tonight, so we'll get right at it. And I hope everyone took the time to read the document, the budget document in the front of the books that we were given. Gary covered it quickly last meeting there, but there's a lot of information in there that tells you where we've been and what has generated some of the thinking about the budget we got here to work on this year. So, Gary, you got anything you want to say before we get right into?
Yeah, there's a couple of things we're going to do. I'm going to hand it over to Ryan in just a second so that he can clarify with a few people on how to use the chat box, because that was apparently a struggle. But before we get into that, one of the things that we neglected to go over was a mill rate comparison sheet. I'd like to bring your attention to that. So if you go back to where my transmittal document is, and if you flip open, it's the second or third to the last page. See if you can find that before I get started. Everybody got that document? Okay, so again, this year, we're still the lowest mill rate town of all the full service communities within the region. Now you can see Waterville's mill rate's 25.76 mils, and the low being 16.4, it's Oakland. The average is 20.06. So what we're doing it correctly. We're keeping our taxes down. We're offering professional services throughout the entire town to our taxpayers. This is something to be proud of. Winslow used to be close to us. They were my biggest competition, and they've jumped all the way up. So they're 18.82 mils. So we certainly have some wiggle room here. And I'm proud of those numbers, and I'm proud of the work that you guys have all put into it to keep us where it is. So having said that, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan real quick to give us a quick tutorial on chat. Ryan.
All right. I'm going to share my screen with everybody just so that I can go through it more easily. So you're or maybe not. So at the bottom, oh, now it came up, sorry. So at the bottom of your screen, so might be the top here, you'll have some options. One of them will be to click the chat. It'll be a chat option, so mine's there. Once you click that open, you just click right into the text box and type, "I have a question," or type your question out.
We can't see your screen, Ryan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
You can see a screen, but we can't get it down in there. Okay.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So you just click the chat box and then "I have a question," hit the enter or return button, and it will pop up and I'll be able to read it.
Okay.
If that makes
And
sense.
if you feel comfortable just typing in "I have a question," we'll let you verbalize a question. You don't have to take the time to type the entire question. We're keeping everybody muted, and Ryan's going to be watching the entire system. So if he sees a question come up from somebody, he can unmute you at that point in time and you can ask. Any questions on that at all? Okay, perfect. Having said that, we're going to start right off with our Public Works Department. So if you want to go to your budget sheet, it's going to be page 23 through 26. Ryan's going to put that up on the screen. Ryan is not, there you go. So 23 and 26, we have Jeff Hall, who's going to present that. He's the director of the Public Works Department. Jeff, whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, here we are. Personnel Services, Public Works Director, which is me. And that is increased due to 3% COLA and a 3% pay raise. Thank you, Gary. The department, the 7 employees, that's going up, 3% COLA. And this year we have Kathy Parity, which is the administration assistant for me. That's, I'm gonna be paying 40% of her wages. And part-time is no change. And overtime is no change. And fringe benefits is gone up because of the COLA and the HRA. That's to do with our insurance. I'm trying to work around that.
I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know. Okay.
Contractual services is heating fuel. That's right, that's a Kelly number.
It is, which we haven't locked into a price yet, so that's to be continued.
So, telephone is no change, electricity is decreased, and I believe that's because of,
The solar
the
array.
solar array, yeah. Sewer and water is no change. Street sweeping is the same. Catch basins, no change. Equipment, maintenance is all good, no change. Building maintenance, that's the same. Training, no change. Trees for, no change, that's removal and replacement. Insurance has gone down a little bit. And road striping is the same old roads that we usually do. Supplies and materials, office supplies, that's the same. Oil, gas, and lube, that's for what we use throughout the year. That's the Kelly number. We average it
Right.
out, what we use.
Gas and diesel, we haven't locked in yet, but I did add 10 cents to our current price, so hopefully we'll lock in soon.
And tires and tubes, that's the same. Oh, it went up a little bit. I think it was $500. Wearing apparel is no change, tools, no change. Cleaning supplies, no change. Construction supplies, no change, that's the same. Safety glasses, cones, gloves. Placement of old work signs and new up-to-date signs, shovels, brooms, and rakes. Cold patch, no change. Traffic signs, no change. Waterville still doing them. And salt and sand, it's about the same.
Went up $500.
Yeah, it went up a little bit, but we went down. Normally we get around 7,000 yards, we're getting 6. And cutting edges is the same. Then miscellaneous roads expenses, that's the same. It's projects that we do in town, gravel that we use, miscellaneous paving, roadside mowing, ditching, striping, and culverts. Road projects, we're not doing one this year. So we took the money that we usually put into that, put it into paving. So then our paving,
Jeff, why don't you go right down over the roads individually?
okay,
Paving.
we will be doing, hopefully with any luck, we'll see what the price comes in, but Tukey Road is gonna be an overlay. Mary Lane is gonna be a shim and an overlay, which a shim is just a real thin, just say a 1/2 inch to bring the profile of the road back, get rid of the wheel ruts before you overlay. So that's usually what it is, just a 1/2 inch throughout the whole thing, and then you put an inch and a quarter, whatever, for an overlay after. And Broom Handle Road is the shim and overlay. East School Street, shim and overlay. Skyline Drive, shim and overlay. Mayflower Heights is an overlay. Meadow Drive is an overlay. Perennial Way overlay. East Pond Road is a shim and overlay. Powell Ave, an overlay. Sawtell Avenue is an overlay. And sidewalks, we're gonna go for 267 tons. Hopefully it's around 20 grand, whatever we can get. We've been saying we're gonna do sidewalks forever and we never do. and
Well, we
get
started
back.
them last year. You started last year and we're gonna go and continue the march forward on it.
So I think that's it.
Okay, I just want to talk about the roads that we're planning on doing. This year, we're almost $300,000. We're asking for a budget on this. I think it was last year where I got up in front of you and I talked about neighboring towns like Fairfield actually going out and borrowing money to go and do their roads. We don't want to do that because anytime you borrow money, you have to go and pay interest. So if we can afford to pay cash to get this stuff done, that's the way we want to do it. We had $200,000 in the budget $275 last year, and we pulled $75,000 out of it due to the COVID. So this year we're planning on bringing it back. Having said that, has anybody got any questions for Jeff?
Looks like Donna might have a question. Donna Hashi Doucette.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can't hear you very well, Donna.
Can you can? I was just wondering if the tree removal, if we took care of the cemetery.
That's
Okay.
AJ. AJ does that. He has money in there for his.
Okay, so that, because I was looking for it in another section, I couldn't find it. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, there's one from Nate Bernier to Jeff. Jeff, is there anything that in the works for MDOT for taking care of Main Church and Route 11 to the bridge? It's getting bad, and that's our main state representing Oakland. Okay, I'm gonna mention that or take care of that, Jeff, if you don't mind. I've been in
Sure.
contact with MDOT over these roads now for the last 2 to 3 years, and I'm not having a lot of luck with them. Jeff, have you had any conversations with any of them over that?
No, I haven't. I know when they did 137 and Route 11, they were supposed to do Main and Church, but Route 11 ended up being so bad that they took the money out to finish that road and
Mhm.
never heard no more.
I mean, Main Street's actually dangerous for anybody
Oh,
riding a motorcycle because of
horrible.
wheel ruts are so deep in it in the summertime, the potholes. So we'll just keep applying pressure to them and see where it goes. But it's dealing with the state. Dave Groder, he wants to know if we can just do a patch on our own. We can. I mean, we'll be spending taxpayers' money on it. Plus, we're going to be setting precedent. We start doing that, the state's going to expect us to continue doing that. So we've been holding off on that. Once in a while, when we get a real deep one, Jeff will go out with his crew on Church Street. He's taking care of them, but we try not to do too much of it because, like I said, those guys are through town all the time and they'll just allow us to continue to doing it. It needs to be redone. The whole road needs to be done. It needs to be ground out and rebuilt, actually.
That piece does.
Anything else? Okay, having said that, Jeffrey, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff,
You want me to leave?
you can leave if you want, or you
Even-
can stay and join the fun.
Even with capital improvements?
Do you want him to stay for capital improvements?
He doesn't have to. I can cover it. It's up to him.
No, I'm going there. Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, have a good night. Okay, next up, we got Fire and Rescue. We have Chief David Coughlin here to present that. And you're going to find that on page 8 through 12. And actually what Chief Coughlin's going to do is he's got a presentation prepared for this, so we're going to let him take it from there.
Thank you, Gary. Sure, everybody's getting tired of looking at the number pages. Ryan, I don't know if you can get that to the first page. Not sure how that's showing on your computer, but so it's been a couple of years since I've done this. I think the last time I did it, we were actually at the boardroom over at the school and wanted to just kind of give an overview of the department again, kind of where we are right now. And so I think this will help give everybody that hasn't seen a presentation before maybe a better understanding of what we do on a kind of a daily to yearly basis. So you can scroll that down a little bit, Ryan. Just start with, when we started the facilities committee a couple of years ago, we rewrote the mission statement just to be one quick, easy statement dedicated to providing quality professional services to protect the lives, property, environment of our community. So we made it short and sweet. Go ahead, Ryan. So I think just about everybody in this room probably know, on this Zoom meeting, I should say, probably knows basically how the fire department is set up. We have a full-time fire chief and we have one per diem on duty daily. That person usually changes every day. It's members that we have on the department that, put in a shift to work to give us the coverage during the daytime hours. Most of them are career firefighters in other towns that are also on our fire department and that live in Oakland. So to carry out our mission, the department relies obviously on the chief, the per diem, and the call force to provide those services. So that staff is responsible for the development, coordination, monitoring, and implementation of our core services and programs. Slide that up, Ryan. So for 2020, just kind of a real brief overview. We did over 1,250 total fire EMS service rescue incidents. Just a real quick breakdown on some of the rescue EMS, that was 738, fires 68, that includes mutual aid. Hazardous conditions 140. Hazardous conditions include things like gas leaks, combustible liquid spills, carbon monoxide calls, electrical wiring problems, power lines down, trees blocking roadways, things like that. We also, as a department, we did over 3,200 hours of training, which is probably a lot for a COVID year, but there were quite a few things that, we had to take care of and get done as refreshers. And we also ran a firefighter 1-2 program for some new members. So the hours pile up pretty quick. So that's a pretty good number. Go ahead, Ryan. Some major accomplishments last year. As everybody knows, we were able to move into our new fire station. We thank everybody for their years of support to get us to where we are now with this facility. We had over 400 volunteer hours from members of the department that moved us in one day from the old station into the new one. So we were able to make that move in one day. In the morning, we responded out of the old station. By the afternoon, we were responding out of the new station. This is, an unbelievable facility. As you can even see from the Zoom meetings right now, we have people in 3 different rooms in this building right now, able to use the high-speed fiber optics, be able to spread out and be able to do these meetings, which we've used quite a bit through the COVID time, the boardroom, the Atlantic room, that we wouldn't have been able to do 2 years ago. I don't know how we would have got through this. Additionally, we took delivery of our new rescue truck. Again, that was something that was supported over and funded over the course of 3 or 4 years, putting money aside so we could pay cash, not have to borrow any money. The new rescue is it's an F550 chassis, 4-wheel drive. Has custom cabinets for our fire, rescue, EMS equipment. It carries ladders, saws, air packs, gas meters, thermal cameras, you name it. We're carrying it on this truck. It has a light tower for nighttime operations. It's recessed into the top. You can't see it unless it's up. There's seating for 4. It's a very, very nice truck that's gonna service a town for the next 20 years. We're very proud of it. We also, the Firefighters Association, purchased and donated a new fire rescue boat to the department. Randy Marshall Jr. put a lot of work into this. He did all the painting. He fixed fiberglass, he painted it. Bride Designs helped us with the lettering at a reduced cost. Total, the association has approximately $6,000 into this piece of equipment, and probably 50, 60 donated hours to get it up to a standard that we feel comfortable and safe using. The boat came in really handy this year as we had multiple fires on the island on Messalonskee Lake. We were able to carry equipment, pumps, hoses, personnel, all out to the island in a safe manner and a little faster than we would have been able to in our old little fishing boat that we had, basically. So we're proud to be able to donate that back to the town as well. Okay, Ryan. So just a couple interesting statistics, if you will. Last year, from January to December 2020, there were over 97 occurrences where we were handling multiple calls at the same time. So we had 2 or more calls going on at the same time. That equals approximately 8% of the total calls. Another number that's kind of concerning is during that same time frame, January 1st to December 31st, 2020, there were 34 occurrences with no response from the department and 126 with 1 responder. This equates to having no or limited response 13% of the time. And when I say limited response, that's with 1 responder. There are other calls that we have limited response on, depending on what the call is. We might have a chimney fire with 3 or 4 people, which really is the bare minimum that you want for a call like that would probably be 8. So just something that we're tracking and we're keeping track of so that we can help address those issues. Okay, Ryan. So back in that first slide, I mentioned the core services and programs. Again, emergency services, 58, almost 60% of the calls are medical or EMS rescue related. Just under 6% of the calls are fire suppression, and about 11% of the calls are the hazardous conditions. Okay, Ryan, next slide.
Can you tell us what the hazardous conditions are, Chief?
Yeah, the hazardous conditions, again, those are the gas leaks. Coming over a little bit on one of the, gas leaks, combustible liquids, carbon monoxide alarms, electrical wiring problems, power lines down, arcing electrical equipment, trees blocking roadways, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a pretty encompassing category. General services incidents, again, core services and programs. These are, could be people locked out of their houses. We go assist them with that. Flooded basements, assisting the police department, maybe with traffic control. Unauthorized burning, people who don't have burning permits or they're not burning safely. Standby calls, other assistance to the public. That's at general service incidents. And that we run approximately 150 of those type of calls a year. Safety inspections, those are conducted by myself and per diems. We did 125 safety inspections last year. We do pre-planning of target hazards, like, whether it's a camp road, how we're going to function or handle a fire on a camp road, to how we would handle an emergency at T-Mobile, or how we'd handle an emergency at the Williams School, things like that. Fire and life safety education. With COVID, we weren't able to do as much of this last year, but we did a nice program on Zoom with Ryan Susi's help with the schools. That worked out really well. And we do CPR classes, fire extinguisher training, emergency management and planning and response. We keep track of activities that kind of above and beyond the emergency calls. And we had 123 entries last year under emergency management and planning response. And that includes things like emergency operations plan for the town, hazard mitigation, meeting and working with the county and state agencies, MEMA, Kennebec County EMA. We monitor the, winter storms, summer storms, weather hazards. We monitor the drought conditions. We do get calls regarding wells and things like that. People concerned about the drought last summer. We track and monitor what's known as Tier 2 reports, which is chemicals that are in town. So it's pretty comprehensive what that piece of the department does. We have the town health officers, myself and Tony Thibodeau. The health officer calls they're down a little bit for us, basically because Dave Savage, the code enforcement officer, handles quite a few of the calls that Bob Ellis used to refer to us. So as much as Dave can handle, he tries to do, but we do get involved with things such as rats, that's a big one, bed bugs, all those gross things. We get involved sometimes with tenant landlord situations, and mold is another one that we get involved with. Burning permits, we continue to issue burning permits at the station. With COVID, people are calling, we're allowing people to call in and we're giving them out over the phone. So again, on that activities reports, we had 601 entries for burning permits. So that includes burning permits that were written, potentially ones that were denied due to weather or unsafe conditions, as well as some that may have been issued online with the state site. We get notification of those so that we know that the burning is going on in town. Okay, Ryan, we go to the next one. Another piece of our core services and programs is the administration and support, finance and budget, compliance with state, federal, with state and federal regulations and inspections. We had multiple inspections last year, especially with a new building. With Department of Labor came in and inspected our building. Maine Municipal inspected our building. So, we got to prepare for those. ISO, which is the insurance services, they did a very thorough inspection of our station and our records last year. That's very time consuming. Human resources and staffing, training and professional development, apparatus and equipment maintenance, acquisition, coordination with dispatch communications, research and development, tactics, deployment, equipment, technology, grants. So last year, we brought in about $8,000 in grants. Gary Sinise Foundation, MMA, Walmart, State Forestry Department. We also wrote grants that were not funded. Assistance to firefighter grant for some equipment was not funded. Firehouse subs grant for turnout gear was not funded. And some equipment from the county also was not funded. So we spend a lot of time writing and maintaining the grants, even the ones that are not funded still take a lot of time to put together and submit and monitor. So just back to the state compliance, that creates a huge amount of paperwork, keeping the records, making sure they're available for inspection. Anytime the state wants to come in and inspect, they can do that. We have to keep track of annual training, hazmat training, personal protective equipment inspections, hose inspections, pump testing, rope inspections, ladder inspections, SCBA inspections, yearly maintenance, medical evaluations, respirator clearances, fit testing. List goes on and on and on, and that all needs to be accounted for, kept in records that are easily accessible if they were to be requested to be inspected. We also do the monthly fuel reports for the town. We go down to Public Works, we read the fuel readings, we come back, put them into spreadsheets, hand that off to Kelly for budgeting. We chair and work with the safety committee, which is another important piece that the town has the fire department involved in. Okay, Ryan, we go to the next one. Just some daily duties, response to all hazards, obviously, fire, EMS, hazmat, calls. Again, 1,250 calls last year. That quick math is 3+ calls a day. Daily, monthly equipment checks and maintenance. So again, in our activities, we keep track of all this. We had over 1,200 hours logged So that averages 3 hours a day that we spend maintaining, cleaning, checking all of our equipment. Building maintenance and housekeeping. The fire department does not have a town-provided janitorial service. We had over 300 entries in our activities for our housekeeping. That's approximately 1 hour a day that either myself, the per diem, or somebody spends here cleaning, whether it's the bathrooms, whether with COVID, or after every meeting, we're sanitizing tables and chairs. We do training, we do pre-planning. We updated 152 pre-plans last year. Again, and there's that annual inspections that I mentioned previously. Okay, Ryan. Just real quick, the fire department played a pretty big role in coordinating, planning, and response to COVID-19. Record keeping, coordination with county, state, and federal agencies, reimbursement of funds. It's looking like we got notification to sign some paperwork today that we're looking at about $9,000 in round 2 of being refunded back to us, and funds that we've spent for PPE, for partial reimbursement for a floor cleaning machine that we purchased for the fire station. It's also a sanitizing machine and some staffing here at the fire department. We secured PPE and supplies. We've done really well. We haven't run into any shortages here. We've done a good job keeping up with what we've needed. We were able to secure some PPE for other departments as well. Masks for the police department, public works, some gloves and masks for the town office. COVID-19 has created some staffing challenges. We had approximately in December, we had 13 per diem shifts affected by quarantines. 3 of those ended up not being filled. And I haven't kept real good track of staff quarantine and how many days maybe that we've lost. But I would say with staff quarantines, in other words, with EMTs or firefighters being quarantined, we're probably between 300 and 500 days equivalent of quarantine where those members were not available for response. Some of those exposures came here on calls. The majority of those exposures came somewhere else. Something that I think the town can be pretty proud of is that we have not had any COVID. Nobody's contracted COVID on the job in Oakland. We've had employees with COVID, but none contracted either fire rescue, police, nobody, public works, town office, nobody has contracted COVID at work in Oakland. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Gary, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
You're absolutely spot on.
So that's a huge testament to all the employees, all the department heads, the planning that went into it, the response that we had right from the beginning. We were one of the first towns to form a committee and get started with that very early on. And, did we do everything right? Probably not, but it definitely was a learning curve, and we've done a really nice job. And staff vaccinations, the fire department and the police department, I'd say probably a third of the fire departments already had their second shots, maybe even a little bit more than that now. And I know the police departments had their first shots, and they may be getting their second one this week or next, probably.
I think they've already had their second shots.
Did they get their second one? Yeah.
I think it was today.
Time goes by pretty fast. Yep, it's 28 days between the shots, but time does go by pretty quick.
Right.
So, okay, Ryan, just a couple more slides. Just a real quick one on call volume increase from 2006, which was the year before I took over as fire chief. There were 750 calls. And last year, again, 1256, that's a 77% increase from 2006 to 2020. So busy little department. Okay, Ryan. So now we get to budget. So that was kind of an overview of everything. Everybody's got their budget sheets. You'll see that our staffing is percentage-wise is a pretty big increase, 15%, 15.6%. The fire chief salary is up 3% COLA, 3% raise. The call firefighter wages, we've increased that considerably. And the per diem wages have increased quite a bit as well. The per diems currently, the pay rate is $15.53 an hour. We're proposing to take that up to the area average, which is $17.50. We have towns in the area that are paying up to $25 an hour for per diems. So, you know, we're still being pretty frugal with that $17.50, but you know, we are at an EMT basic level. So I think the $17.50 is a fair wage. The firefighter and call wages, again, that number you'll see is increased quite a bit. And in your narratives, you'll see the breakdown. We're giving everybody, right now, the base rate is $12.60. And, you know, we're sending people out. People are going into people's homes. They're getting geared up in all this COVID gear, being directly exposed for $13.60 an hour. So I proposed, I mean, $12 plus the increments for training levels. So the proposal is to take that to a base rate of $13.61. There's increases as the members and firefighters and EMTs, as they get further along in their training, they get pay increases. There is a typo or a mistake in there under the EMT. It says 50 cents. That should say $2. So the EMTs, that should say $2 and not the 50 cents that's there now.
Can I
So-
break in here real quick, Chief?
Yeah, sure can.
Should we put the budget sheets up there so that the people who are not part of the budget advisory committee can see the numbers that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I'm reading off the narratives right now, but yeah, you sure can, Gary. This
Yeah,
PowerPoint is
okay.
done, so.
Perfect.
Yep, sorry, I just assumed everybody was on the.
Well, we've got some visitors that are watching.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, no, that's fine. So, so the EMT, we're looking at $2 increase for them. And that's reflected in the rescue budget, but as we're kind of going through it. The deputy chief, that salary, if you will, has been moved to help offset the wages for the call firefighters. And the deputy chief now will get a $5 an hour increase in his wage. And right now, Vaughn Farnham is filling that role as deputy chief. It's a 2-year appointment. And he, through the COVID, we had an intern or a deputy chief that was kind of filling in, and that was Randy Marshall Sr. and helping with the COVID response. And he's still kind of working in the sidelines, but just not in that deputy chief role. So Vaughn Farnham is taking that on for a 2-year appointment, and it'll be an hourly wage versus a stipend. So you work, you get paid. Basically is how that plays in. And Vaughn, if I'd gotten COVID or if I'd been out for an extended period of time, Vaughn has been a department head in town before, running the transfer station, as many people know. He could step in, he can do the POs, he can do the budget, he can do, he could run those things, go to meetings with Gary, whatever needed to be done. He knows how to work that. So that's a good asset for us. And he's got nearly 60 years on the fire department. He knows it inside and out. So we're fortunate to have him. And so that's how those wages are broken out. And, it's time that, and again, we're not going overboard with these wages. These, talking to area departments, we're basically bringing these up to a average. We're not going above and beyond. These are averages. And well-deserved by the crew here that's working hard. So other increases or changes, brought some line items back up to pre-COVID levels, which includes equipment maintenance. You'll see that's back up to 16,000. And, we have a lot of equipment here that we maintain, and the money just doesn't go as far as it used to, as I think everybody knows. And looking down through here real quick, wearing apparel, you'll see that's up. We have submitted an AFG, which is an Assistance to Firefighter grant, for turnout gear. And we're hoping to get, if it's awarded, 15 or 16 sets. excuse me. But we do have some immediate needs that we need to take care of. And if we don't get that grant, we will definitely need some upgrades.
Can you
So an
remind
increase
us,
of,
can you remind us one more time what this, the turnout gear costs per set, chief?
yeah, sure. So basically by adding 4,000 to that, we'd be able to purchase probably 2 sets. So coat, pants, you're looking at about $1,800. You're looking at over $200 for a helmet, $200 for a pair of boots, $85 for a pair of gloves, $45 to $50 for a Nomax hood. Adds up fast, adds up really fast. And basically the life expectancy is 10 years. And that's 10 years lightly worn. You know, some of the more active members that are going to a lot of calls, fighting a lot of fires, it doesn't even last 10 years. The laundering that we have to do wears the gear out almost as fast as the fires do. You know, trying to, you know, when we come back, we have to launder and get the carcinogens off the gear. So we, you know, it's really wears on it a lot, just washing the gear and the extractor. So that line item has been increased for that reason. I don't see any other changes there. If you want to go to the next page. Thank you, Ryan. Heating fuel, again, Kelly's just waiting to lock in a number. That'll get placed in there. Telephone, electricity, electricity is up. We went from a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot building to a 12,000 square foot building. Yes, it's more efficient, but we're running a lot more electrical equipment. We got exhaust systems to get the diesel fumes out of the building. We have, you know, the building runs on 4 furnaces versus the one. Air exchange, compressors. It just, there's a lot going on over here. Kitchen equipment, a lot going on. So electricity has been increased. Water and sewer, same thing. You see an increase there. Increase in building maintenance. Again, that's just being brought up to pre-COVID levels. You know, we have a sprinkler system here that needs to be maintained. We have a hood system in the kitchen that needs to be maintained, and an exhaust system again for the trucks that needs to be maintained. Those are all things we didn't have in the other building. So the other building was older and we spent money on fixing things up. This building is newer and we have things that we got to spend money on just to maintain. So bringing that back up to pre-COVID level to be able to maintain those components of the building. So that takes us through the fire department piece. Rescue, again, you'll see the wage increase. And that's what we discussed before, to bring those wages up to an area average and to give the EMTs some well overdue compensation. And everything else is pretty much medical supplies, just up a little bit. Right now through COVID, we've been able to get reimbursed for a lot of our medical supplies, but we don't know that will continue. Everything else is maintained. Maintained funding level. So percentage wise, you'll see that you know, the percentage looks pretty big, but on a $300,000 budget, it doesn't take much to jump that percentage up really quick. So when you actually look at the numbers, the majority of what we're doing is going right back into our community as far as paying our people. You know, these are majority of the guys, they live right here in Oakland. They spend their money right here in Oakland. They live in Oakland. They got houses in Oakland, and you know, so we're putting that money right back into our people, which is important, and it's been one of Gary's goals for a couple of years now, and it's looking really good. So I'll entertain any questions, comments.
You've got 2 questions waiting for you right now in the chat, chief. One from
Sure.
Angela, the other one from Don Ponitz.
Okay,
Have you got them there? Can you bring
I
that
can't
up?
see them. No.
Okay, Angela Jurdak, why are those who apply to become firefighters often denied if we're so shorthanded?
Well, there's many reasons, and it's not really something to get into during a budget negotiating budget presentation. You know, hiring is a finicky thing, and it's something that each case is taken individually. So it's, when we say we're shorthanded, we have a good, solid call department. It takes more people to get the number of people that you need to respond. And especially over the nighttime hours, but that's the discussion for another time.
Don Ponitz, can you review the vaccination schedule for the crew?
So the crew here, the EMTs were the first to start with their vaccinations, which was probably almost 2 months ago now. And it was done through Delta Ambulance. They're the ones that coordinated. So the crew had to go to Delta to get their shots. Then 28 days later, we went and got our second shot. The firefighters, the police department, they a little over a month ago got their first shots. They either have or are getting their second shots now. So everybody that has wanted one, there are some people that have opted out. I don't know about the police department, but in the fire department, there were some people that opted out. So everyone that wants one has gotten one. As far as how the rest of the town crew is going to fit into that, that remains to be seen based on the CDC guidelines. I think they're still at 70 and over being vaccinated at this point. I haven't seen anything from CDC or from emergency management that has indicated that the town employees would be on any different schedule than the rest of the general population. If that changes, obviously we'd be on top of that and work to get all our people that work for the town included.
Any other questions for Chief Coughlin? Wait, we got one more, Dave. Is it not mandatory for emergency people to be vaccinated with a question mark? This is
No,
from
it's not
Don
mandated.
Ponitz.
They have not made it mandatory for anyone. So if someone does not want to get the shot, we cannot force them to.
Anything else? Okay, having said that, I'd like to take a moment and congratulate Chief Coughlin. Last night about 8 o'clock, I was contacted by Congressman Golden's office to advise us that Chief Coughlin had written a grant, regional grant for $32,000 or $36,000. I don't have those numbers right in front of me, and he won the grant. That's his MO. This man writes a lot of grants and he saves the taxpayers an awful lot of money. So congratulations on that, Chief. The other thing I'd like to bring to everybody's attention is he kind of underspoke on this COVID team that we put together. This man did a lot of organizing on it. He kept us all going in the straight track. He put hours and hours on top of his normal job to make sure that the taxpayers and the employees in Oakland remain safe. We did have a few positive cases for my employees, but as he said, it was all because of external. It was nothing from internal. It was a great job. So thank you for everything. The other thing I'd like to mention is, he's had over 1,200 calls for service. The town of Winslow and the town of Fairfield both have full-time fire departments, and they aren't doing those kind of numbers. A lot of his staff are senior citizens, and they're going to be retiring. The other batch of his staff are employed by other towns' full-time firefighters, and they get injured in other towns, and we lose them for firefighters here. We're going to have to start putting the full-time department on our radar. This is something that we've been talking about over the last couple of years. And I think that you're going to start hearing more and more about this. I think that we need to go and realize how important our fire department is to the taxpayers of Oakland. Businesses are coming into town. They expect full-time fire services. The town of Oakland's growing. Population's growing. Services, the need for services are growing. This is something where our tax base is continuing to go up, and we're getting to a point where we can afford this. These men and women leave their houses at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to go help rescue people who might have gotten car accidents. And we don't realize, I don't think the average person realizes just what our firefighters are doing on a daily basis. So I just wanted to plant that seed and let you know that this is something that you're going to hear. You're not going to hear about it this year, but we're going to put together a committee. We're going to start studying this process and seeing how much of a need there is. I'm sure that you recall reading the town of Norwich Walk, a little town half the size of Oakland, is now having a full-time fire department. And the purpose for that was they couldn't get people to come into work. The training for a part-time firefighter is the same exact training for a full-time firefighter. And when you have a young man or a woman who has a full-time job and a family, it's hard to get them to commit to that kind of training. So you start looking at careers and career people to come over and work for these towns. So any thoughts or questions on that from the group before we move on? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the slideshow. Anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me directly. Have a good night.
Good job, Dave.
Okay, now we're going to move on to capital improvements, which is page 37 and 38. Are we all there? I'm going to put this down. I don't know why. Okay, this year we've got a lot going on for capital improvements. Our total budget this year is $330,000. Last year it was $188,000. The year before that, I think we ended up with 205. So to go down through it, we have a fire truck that's going to need to be replaced within the next four years, and we're putting $100,000 in the budget for that. Police cruiser, we've got $45,000 into that. I think we talked last year or the year before about the next cruiser that we got rid of. We weren't going to do a trade-in because we wanted to put an extra cruiser up at the school. So without a trade-in, you're looking at $45,000. Jeff has two worn-out front-end loaders down there, the large articulated ones. The 544 is rusting out. We're going to have to replace it. We're putting $125,000 in that budget. Streetlights. We've paid off the contract. We now own 282 street lights around town, and the goal now is to convert them over to LED lights. We're planning on putting upwards of $150,000 in a fund to do that. And we have subsequently learned that we can replace just the heads of the streetlights for around $120 a piece, or we can replace the bulbs for around $60 a piece, but there is a fuse that has to go in there. So, we're going to get an awful chunk of them done with $50,000, and there's going to be more to follow on that as the research comes through. Transfer station scale, we're putting another $10,000 in there. We've got 20,000 in account right now, so it'll bring us up to 30,000. That's something that we've got to move on. I'm thinking we're going to get another couple of years out of it, and it's pretty much going to be all done. So we're moving forward with that as well. Any questions on the capital improvement? None? Okay. Any questions on the evening? Any questions, anything? Chief is still here. Jeff's gone home, but I can answer any questions that you may have for him. Okay, I guess that wraps it up, Dana.
Third-party requests.
We got a request.
We got to talk about third-party requests.
Third-party request. Thank you, Kelly. Dana, are you on there?
Did we lose him? No, he's there. He's muted.
Okay. I got a question from Nate Bernier. Gary, have you heard anything if CMP is going to affect our new solar farm? No, we don't own that solar farm. All we're doing is buying electricity from it. We're locked into a contract, Nate. Nothing's gonna affect us. The newspaper article certainly generated a lot of conversation about it, but the other two solar arrays that are in the town of Oakland are being impacted, but not the town of Oakland.
And ours is already online, right?
Ours is already online.
It is. I
Correct.
received our first bill with our first credit last week. So it's starting to show. I don't have a lot of data yet, but I'm keeping a nice spreadsheet of our savings. So we'll know more soon.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, third-party requests. Kelly, you want to go through this? You want me to?
Doesn't matter. Either I can do it. I'll do some talking.
Okay, do it.
So, last year, due to COVID, we cut out all requests. We didn't fund anybody. And they are still organized and doing their jobs. We only received requests from 8 agencies. KV Cap, which 14 in Oakland residents received their benefits last year and they've requested $1,400. KV Cap Transportation, they had 103 Oakland individuals receive their services. They've requested $550. Kennebec Behavioral Health helped 245 Oakland residents and they've requested $500. Spectrum Generations, they helped 188 Oakland residents and they're requesting $2,991. We had a new organization request $200, the Community Health and Counseling Services. The Sexual Support Crisis and Support Center, they helped 1,248 individuals from Oakland last year. And they're requesting $2,184. Hospice Volunteers of Waterville, they helped 7 individuals from Oakland and they're requesting $500. Mid-Main Homeless Shelter, they helped 23 Oakland residents and they're requesting $3,000. For that total for the miscellaneous requests is $11,325. And then we have our conservation organizations. There's
Can I
5.
step in for just a
Yep.
second? Kelly?
Go right ahead.
So just to kind of go over the top 8 that Kelly just mentioned. Year before last, we funded everybody at $500.
Yep.
Mid-Main Homeless Shelter, we funded them at $1,500. So everybody was $500 year before last, and the Mid-Main Homeless Shelter was $1,500. Okay, sorry about that, Kelly.
And there's a couple, if you look back in 2019-20 on your budget sheet, like literacy volunteers, we haven't heard from them yet.
It's too late.
Yeah, it is too late. The other one was Family Violence Project. So the conservation organizations, Seven Lakes Alliance is requesting $2,500. Friends of Meslonsky Watershed is $8,500. McGraw Pond Salmon Lake, $2,000. East Pond Association, $1,750. Belgrade Area Dams Committee, which is a contract, $5,889.24. And that actually went down from the prior year. We funded them, where are they?
It goes around 14,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 13, 14,000. It was 11,200 was last year's and then same the year before. But I know that we had cut their budget due to COVID, but then the council just recently approved us to fulfill our contract for that 11,200 for this year. So.
And historically, we've always funded our conservation organizations at full ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then economic development organizations, the Central Maine Growth Council, which is a contract, they're requesting $22,105.80. Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce, which is our kind of our membership to be a chamber member, of 822, and KB cog is 9209. We go in with a lot of purchasing, group purchasing stuff with KB cog. So any questions?
You did have one from Donna Doucette. I'm not sure who she was talking about, but she asked, who do they serve? Adults, kids, or both? I think she was talking about the community health and counseling services.
Yes, Ryan, I was.
So Donna, I supplied you with a summary sheet on all of these, and it has a rundown over what their services are and who they actually serve. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that yet. So if you go through your
Well,
packet,
I am concerned about counseling. Yeah. I'll find it.
okay, I'm not sure which page it's on, Donna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mental health assistance with independent living, hospice care, mental health for adults as well as children. So they do both.
We got one message
Oh,
from
Thank you.
Angela. Angela Jurdak is stating $500 to each as usual and $1,500 to the homeless shelter. Nothing new. That came in from Angela.
None to. Yeah, Mike Rosenwell has a
I'd like
question.
to second that in this year.
Mike Rosenwell had a question regarding the food pantry, and we actually moved that to our general government line so that we would fund them as well as we would fund them automatically every year. And also the flower committee, we put into AJ's property maintenance budget so that they wouldn't need a third-party request. It would just be automatically funded.
Just to mention the food pantry, they're not taking their $5,000 that we awarded them last year due to excess money that they've had. Their donations have been right through the roof. But they are requesting the $5,000 for the upcoming year because they think that there's a possibility they're going to need that.
The food pantry is? Mike said he got a call today that the food pantry is looking for a bigger space within the town. So if anybody knows of a larger space, to keep your eyes and ears open. Yes, Kelly, the only new one is the community health counseling services.
From Molly to everyone.
I think that's Dawn. I think Dawn maybe has a question.
Oh, Don Borman.
Okay, I see Gary. I got one word, Don.
Say what?
Me? Okay, can everybody hear?
Yes.
Again.
Last year during the process, we had come up with a different amount that we were going to give to the nonprofits based on our ratings. Do you have those numbers that we had agreed on at that point? Because it's blank in the book, but we had gone away from the straight 500 figures.
Right. No, I didn't do that this year, Don.
I think that would be helpful because I don't want people to just think that we've always done 500 and 1,500. We were trying to come up with some rationale to give some more, some less. It was based on the group's combined thoughts as to how we should distribute a set
Right.
amount of money.
I mean, we could,
I just don't want to lose that.
I have it down
Okay.
in my office.
what we'll do is we'll send that out on an email tomorrow to the committee. And they
Yeah.
can take the time to fill that out and we can revisit that tomorrow night if that works for everybody.
Because I think what we did was we said we were going to give X amount of money. And we're going to divide that. Some would get 1,500, some would get 1,000, and some would get 500 based
Yeah,
on
that's correct.
ordering.
Good catch. So we'll get that put together and we'll have that out to everybody tomorrow. So when you get that email, please take a moment and fill that out. If you don't recall what that is, it's a rating. So we're going to go and use the top 8, which is the community service organizations. And that was part of the reason why I did a summary sheet for everybody. So you could quickly take a look at it and see what services each organization provided to the taxpayers of Oakland. I'll give you a little synopsis tomorrow with a sheet so that you can fill that out. Anything else? So we're going to leave this alone for the rest of the evening.
Hey, Gary,
Yes.
this is Buzz. What's
Hey,
your
Harold.
thoughts on the Central Maine Growth Council request?
Well, we got a contract. So, I mean, the thing is, they bring value. They're my economic development arm. They did a great job with the comprehensive plan. That's done. We've still got a broadband initiative that we're trying to put together. The COVID situation just kind of blew us everything out of the water. So I personally don't think that's a waste of money. As you remember, when I first came on, I wasn't a big fan of this. But after I've had a chance to work with Garvin and Elaine, but Elaine's gone. They've got a new young lady that's working over there now. I find that they do bring some value. And I think that with the economic boom that's regionally happening right now, that we'd be cutting our nose off to spite our face to get rid of them at this point in time. I think we finish the contract out with them and reassess at that point in time. And I think this is year number 2 of 3. So that's my personal feeling on it. These other towns in our region are using them quite successfully, and so haven't we. That comp plan was a lot of work for them. And I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at the finished product, but it's quite in depth and it's beautiful. It's a nice roadmap to Oakland's future. And we're going to put together a committee to make sure that thing doesn't lose steam and it sits on a shelf. Does that answer?
Okay, yeah, that answers it. I just hadn't heard much other than the comprehensive plan and didn't know
Right.
what the feelings were.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I say hold on to it for a couple more years and kind of reassess then.
10-4.
Anything else? Okay, I guess we can hand it over to you, Dana.
Yeah, the only thing I have to do is close the meeting. So unless somebody's opposed to it, we'll close the meeting and we have another one tomorrow night. We have library, code enforcement, public safety, maintenance and police tomorrow night, right?
That's correct. And we're
Okay.
we're gonna finish up this third-party request tomorrow night too.
Yeah, so we'll see you all at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.